Good evening, 7th graders, or maybe you're watching this in the afternoon or even in the morning. But as we spoke about in class, you guys are going to be this pilot group for watching these videos online and then coming to class, being prepared with your notes and being ready to ask questions and to work independently at your own level. And I'm going to be coming around the classroom answering any questions that you have. So chapter 1 is about integer operations, and 1.1 is about expressions and our favorite order of operations. So hopefully some things are coming back to you regarding what you've learned about the order of operations in 6th grade. So let's just start off with what a numerical expression is. And that basically just it's an expression that just consists of numbers and operations. So here you can see we have our numbers and then we have some of our main operations. Anybody remember what those 4 main operations are? Yep, that's right. Add, subtract, multiply, and divide. As you go up in math, you're going to be coming into a lot of fun different operations, but we're just going to focus right now on these main 4. So what we have to do something with these expressions. It's one thing for it just to sit around, but it's just sitting there. So we want to evaluate it. And what that means is we just find the value. So I want you to take a moment and try to solve that expression. Don't worry about what answer you get. Don't worry about being wrong. Remember, math, it's okay to make mistakes in math. That's why we always use pencils. And that's part of the learning process. And remember, we also want to make sure we're setting up our notes in this Cornell style with the title at the top, the line in the maybe about a third over on your page, and at the bottom of your page you're going to have a summary and question section where you can make sure you write down the questions that you might have for the next day in class. So let's take a look at this expression and what the way is to solve it. So hopefully you remember this little acronym called PEMDAS. And that's just, again, an acronym that stands for something. So the P stands for parentheses. And we can also just call these our grouping symbols. And here are some common grouping symbols that you will see. So this is the first thing we want to look for in any type of expression. And remember, the great thing about these videos is you can pause me. You're like, you're going too fast. I can't write this down. So pause me, rewind me, stop me, shut it off, turn it back on. You have the control. The second thing we want to look for is our exponents. And what those are our powers and our roots. Remember that little fun thing, the square root of 25? Anybody remember what that is? It's 5. So, and 5 to the second power, no, it's not 10. 5 to the second power is 25. So we want to look through our expression and see if there's anything regarding exponents or roots. The third letter that we have is M for multiplication, and then notice I've kept this in the same color because it's either multiply or divide. So we always scan from left to right, just like you read from left to right. Same way we solve our math problems, in left to right, with the exception of following our order of operations. The fourth thing we're going to do is for the A stands for addition and the S stands for subtraction. So again, we're going to scan our expression and look to see if there's any addition or subtraction. But of course we would have done steps 1, 2, or 3 before we get to this last part. So let's take a look back at our expression. If I go from left to right, I notice no parentheses. Scan from left to right. Any exponents or roots? Yep, there's none of there. So I can cross off steps 1 and 2. I scan from left to right. Is there any multiplication or division? Yep, division, multiplication. But notice that this division came first, and that's okay. Remember, the state of California likes to trick you, so I'm just throwing this problem in. You're 7th grade. It's going to be a little bit harder, so we need to make sure that even though the division comes before the multiplication, that's okay. I need to do this division first. So 6 divided by 3 is 2. 2 times 5 is 10. And then we go back to this addition because I don't have any division or multiplication, and I only am left with addition. So 9 plus 10 is 19. Pat yourself on the back if you got that right. No worries if you didn't. Again, we're going to be practicing a lot in class. So remember this fun thing, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. This is one of the things that your parents probably learned, their parents probably learned. It's just a way to remember the order in which it goes. But remember, I've colored the M and the D because those can go either way. That's what I mean by this little box it, because if their division is before the multiplication, that's okay. Some students last year said, please excuse Mrs. D and Shrek. Whatever works for you to remember this. The next thing, just before we move on, I want to review what a power is. And that's just a way to write repeated multiplication. And remember, mathematicians want to be efficient. They don't want to have things all spread out over their page. They want to make it as concise as possible. So 3 to the 5th. What is that going to look like if I was to expand that out? Please, 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 please don't say 15. 3 times 5. Remember, I was like, no, this is something special. If it was 3 times 5, the 5 would just be right next to it. But this looks a little different. So that's our clue that we need, that it's not 3 times 5. So we have our exponent, which tells us how many times this 3 is being multiplied. So 3 is being multiplied 5 times. 3 times 3. Take your answer, times it by 3 again. Take that answer, times it by 3. Take that answer, times it by 3. And you should get 243. Again, if you didn't, it's okay. Please, just whatever you do, don't get 15. Because remember, this little guy right here, he's so special. He got raised up. So it's 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. Not 3 times 5. No, 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 no. So, in addition to just having numbers and operations, we also have these fancy things called variables. I know, you're like, I know what this is, Mrs. D. Bartolo. Write in your notes just to remind yourself. And then, of course, since we're throwing in this variable, we have this fabulous fancy way of saying algebraic expression. And that's just a fancy way to say I have numbers, I have variables, and I have operations. So it's not just numerical anymore, it's an algebraic expression because it has that fancy variable. So we need to do something with this expression. So we have our expression right here. Somebody tell me what happens when a number is smacked up against a variable? Yes, inside there is a little multiplication. Mathematicians want to be efficient, so they're not going to write it if they don't have to. But you should remember that anytime a number is smacked up against a variable, it means multiplication. So I'm going to evaluate it when x equals 7. That means I'm going to take this 7 and I'm going to put it in where that x is. One of the things to remember is whenever you're evaluating an expression is that you always want to give that 7, that number you're plugging in, give it a parenthesis. I like to say you're giving it a little hug just because it's a transition. The 7 is being moved, dropped into this new space, so you want to give it a hug. Say, it'll be okay, little 7. 3 times 7 is 21. 21 plus 4 is 25. So one of the ways that we're going to be checking to make sure that you have watched the videos, and for me to add into our class discussion first thing in class, is you're going to be answering some questions. You're going to be clicking this link below, and that's going to be submitted to me. So it's going to tell me one thing: who watched the video and what the main questions that students have regarding the video. And so that helps us to focus a little bit more and use our time most effectively in class. So here are some of the questions you will be answering. First thing is, what was the video about? Go back through your notes. Type in order of operations, expressions, numerical expressions, algebraic expressions, powers, evaluating. I really understand, remember this little dot 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 means I really understand order of operations. Whatever it is that you feel pretty confident with, I want you to type that in. The next question is, I still have questions about evaluating. I put in the 3 and 7 and left it as 37. I didn't multiply it. So I think I'll need a little bit of help there. Whatever it is for you, this is confidential. It's only going to go to me. This is part of that check to make sure that you've looked at the video. The last thing you're going to have is a multiple choice question where you need to solve this problem. So you're going to take the 2, look at your notes, see what you need to do with the 2, and pick the correct choice. Or pick the choice that you have. Remember, we're okay making mistakes. That's the whole point of math, is we make mistakes. Oh, and that's why we use a pencil with an eraser, is so we can erase and start over. Trust me, I have made mistakes after mistake, and it's okay. That's part of learning. So again, make sure you're ready for the class tomorrow. You need to show me your notes. I'll be checking this form that you have answered, and we'll get started in class. Looking forward to seeing you.